But I packaged up all of the engineering I had taken at Rochester. I was in school a lot. Now, what the heck was that called, though? It wasn't called civil engineering.
Chemical engineering? Or
It was a full degree. In other words, it was a 4-year it was the kind of degree people took when they couldn't get into mechanical or civil or whatever. But for me, it was good because I had taken bunches of this stuff. So the net result is I have equivalent to 4-year or 5-year. What's the last year that I took? It was the collection of getting all this stuff together. It was quite easy, I might say. Okay, that's my education.
perfect. And this is sort of off topic, but did you ever go to Forbes Field when you were at Pitt?
Hey, what?
Did you ever go to Forbes Field when you were at Pitt?
Certainly. I even went to a baseball game or two. I was not real interested in baseball, but Pitt was the tallest engineering school in the country. And here was Pitt, and here was Forbes Field. And things happened. They took us over there, and they used the athletic facilities, things of that sort. But it was all home education.
And then what happened after you graduated? Did you go directly into the steel industry?
You don't know this one. And the answer is no, I didn't go directly into it. But my family lived up on a little hill, not a big hill. And over here was a fellow that went to high school with the guy who was going to hire me. And when I got back, he called, telephoned and said, could you send Lee over? He talked to my mother. They were good friends. And when I came back, I had a job at Trevaux as it was an engineering title. But it was the freshman year in some sort. So I was in and working the next day, which is kind of interesting. I got sent to West Virginia. And my new boss said, I want you to get on there. I want you to call on every factory you see with a large chimney and see if they need a pump. It was for the I'm not doing very good.
You're doing fine.
I sold a lot of our pumps, incidentally. I headed straight down from Pittsburgh down to Berkeley Springs, I think it was called, at the bottom end of West Virginia. And Trevaux had not had a person working West Virginia because they had people working very hard at selling big things.
And where was the Trevaux? Where was your office located?
Trevaux's office was at the corner of 5th and Liberty Avenues. That's downtown. But they also had their shipbuilding office and the yards at Neville Island, which was about 12 miles down the Ohio River from Pittsburgh.
So did you work in the office and on the island, or just in the office?
No, I worked out. I didn't work on Nibble Island for another few years. But I had a strange education. My father was happy. My mother was unhappy because she detected what I had done with my getting an Air Corps thing. But at Trevaux, I went to work as a sales engineer immediately. And Harold Graham was his name. He went to high school with my mother. I said, that's two guys that gave me positions. And from that point at Trevaux, I worked as a sales engineer for a couple of years in the things that I was interested in, and that was mechanical equipment. And then I was made development engineer, that was it. And I got to be chief development engineer, but also planning or going out and seeking new ventures for Trevaux. And one of the ventures that I went to seek was in Austria. And it was a process technique called continuous casting. And I brought that in as a license from the Austrian crowd was the best in the business. And it was quite a feather in my cap. And I liked the people. And so we were automatically in the continuous casting business with a company that had done massive amounts of development work on it. And that was nice, and I was involved in that.
When you went to Austria, did you notice any remnants of World War II? Did you see any remains of that?
No, surprisingly enough. And I was in Germany. And if I had a map, I could tell you how many places. But say 6 or 8 sites in Germany. But the one I was interested in, because it really was a feather in Trevaux's cap, because it was a new technology for producing steel. Now the steel wasn't produced in the equipment, but steel was produced, and it was in things like this shape. And then it was rolled out into different shapes and forms.
So it was much more efficient than the Bessemer process.
The Bessemer process was melting in a furnace that was very much like. Did you hear of a? Give me 10 seconds. LD, Linz-Donowitz process that was developed in Austria during the war, and it was a convenient place for the bad guys to work on new processes. So they called it LD, Linz-Donowitz, and they built the LD processes, but it was essentially a Bessemer process, except that it was technically more advanced. And it put Trevaux into the steel making business in the LD process.
So they were the first one in Pittsburgh to have that process?
Yes. Yes.
So how were you able to negotiate that, as opposed to somebody else? Did you have connections, or did you just get assigned to Austria to go pick that up?
Oh no, that was my desire to do that, because it was the best steelmaking technology in the world.
How did you hear about it originally? Do you remember did you read it in a magazine, or did you hear about it from a colleague?
I think because of my interest in steel making, I heard about it, and then I took it to my boss and suggested we see what we could do with it, and it was that way. That's how Draveau grew in the steel making business.
That's amazing, because that process is still used today down at Edgar Thompson.
It is.
I mean, it's a big deal in steel industry.
They may be doing that in Edgar Thompson again. Or did you say they were?
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
They're still doing
yeah.
that today.
Well, they restarted it. Draveau benefited from things like that because they had the shipbuilding and the furnace building down on Neville Island. So they built the steelmaking furnaces. And a steelmaking furnace was nothing but a thing this big around and this tall, and they blew air into the bottom of it, which made it a much faster process than the Bessemer process.
So did you sell those, I guess, to all the steel mills? Every steel mill bought
Tried
one?
to, yeah. We sold a lot of them.
That's amazing. Did you sell the one to Edgar Thompson? Do you remember?
I think I personally did, but I'm not 100% certain about that. That's a long time ago.
That's amazing to find out that you were involved in that. That's a very famous process, like you say. It's incredible.
Well, then another one that was kind of interesting: continuous casting. You could make this in the Bessemer process, and you poured it out, and you poured it down between steel rolls that were turning. They were turning the correct vessel to do this, but what they did with pouring the steel, liquid steel, into that, it then was rolled out and cooled, and it came out as billets or flats, things sort of. In other words, it superseded the Bessemer process. It was an improvement. And we built quite a few of them.
So what was your job in designing them, or mainly for the sales of the product?
Pretty much for the sale, but I did have things to do with the design of the process.
So at that time you were working on the island?
Yes. Well, some of that.
Now with Neville Island, there's no road, so did you have to take the ferry?
Oh, no, there's a road.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In fact, they tore down a bridge. I don't think you knew that, did you? They tore down the bridge at the top end of... There's a point downtown. That's the big business center, not Neville Island. Neville Island's down here. But during the war, it was traffic jammed. So they tore the one bridge down, took it down to the other end of... No, to the top end of Neville Island. So that's how they built a couple of bridges that way.
I think I was thinking about Bruno Island.
Oh, that was a little one.
I think that's what I was
It
thinking
was
about.
that's where they had a power generation plant.
So when you worked at Draveau, did you have any dealings with the Homestead Steel? In Homestead, the Homestead mill?
Yeah, I was out there a lot, but I can't remember selling anything to them because they were established.